So you keep coming back to the sort of like the mental game that you have to keep dialed in. What is that for you? The days you feel like you're traveling around, and look, I know a lot of people be like, oh, I'd love to play for the Globetrotters and be in Japan and this place, but it wears on people. So what is the headspace you have to get into to keep you going through that? And the workouts you're doing where you're getting up, when you're dragging from traveling, you're making sure the workouts are getting in, you're still training, and then you're doing a show that night.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But it's the discipline. And I think the discipline is really what keeps me balanced in all of it. The discipline and then the consistency to be able to do effective work over time. You see the results, and that is what keeps me sane, for sure.
Where do you get that from? Is it your grandfather, your mom, anybody you know that you're like, this is who it instilled in me?
I think it's intrinsic. I think it's all intrinsic motivation, and I think you can bring intrinsic motivation out of other people. Like, I think you could spark it in other people. And I think, maybe a combination of everything that I went through growing up. And I think I was kind of overlooked. And just going through ups and downs, I think that's where it comes from. Like, anytime I fall down, I want to get back up. Like, anytime I shoot a bad shot, I'm like, I got to make sure this doesn't happen again. Like, that stuff drives me.
Hey, friends. It's the Ryan Leckey Show. Hey, what is going on? And welcome back to another episode of the Ryan Leckey Show. Super pumped, and I hope you think this interview is a slam dunk today. You're like really with the puns. The one and only Mia Hopkins, a Pittston native, with us today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you for having me.
I love it. And you know what? You and I initially met a few years ago when you made a huge splash in northeastern Pennsylvania with your big debut with the Harlem Globetrotters, which, I mean, you've been traveling everywhere. I kind of follow you on the gram. I'm like, oh my God, she's in Japan today. Wow, she's in Hawaii. How does she do it all? But I think you have such a great story to tell about perseverance, about drive, about passion, about not giving up. Because I know it sounds like cliche. People are like, don't give up on your dreams. But you are somebody who put in the work, who put in the time, and who did something that most people would be like, oh, I don't know if you're going to make that team or whatever, right? And you fought the adversity, et cetera, and you did it. You went out and literally went out to shoot your shot, and it was a slam dunk.
Facts.
Right?
Yeah, been through the ringer, been through it all. And then the day of my Harlem Globetrotter tryout, that was a day, that was just meant for me.
Okay. And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll go into it. Okay.
We don't want to like just reveal it right away. But at first, let's talk about like your childhood, growing up, and your passion and when you fell in love with the game of basketball, because that's sort of what you started to even build your career around, and not only building a career around it, but giving back to kids in this part of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, truly blessed to be back here. I started out here, so I think it's my honor and my duty to be able to come back here and give my wisdom to the youth. So I really started in my driveway. And
how old were you when you picked up your first basketball?
Out the womb. For real.
Okay.
For real. So my grandpa was a coach for GAR.
Yeah.
Well-recognized coach, legendary coach.
And for people who aren't familiar with GAR, that is a school in
Wilkes-Barre High School.
There we go.
He was the head high school coach at GAR, legend, and I grew up in the gym. So I was a baby when he was still coaching. And then as I got older, basketball was just always my first love. And I used to just play in the driveway. And I used to actually ask him, to play horse with me. And I wasn't very good. I could barely, reach the basket.
I used to love playing horse. And, people would play pig,
yeah.
Right? Sometimes on my lazy days, I'm like, let's just play pig. I'm sorry.
Right. No, but I was serious. So I wanted to play horse, and I wanted to win. And he would always beat me because, obviously, he was older, and he knew basketball. I was just a kid.
And he was the coach.
Yeah,
so
that too.
He knew the game, yeah.
And so, obviously, he would win, and then he'd be like, you're no good. Get better. I'm going back inside to do my crosswords.
Dang.
Yeah.
So Grandpa was savage.
Yeah.
But that lit the fire under you
lit
to say,
fire.
Oh, I'm going to get better.
Mm-hmm. That was it right there. And it was, reverse psychology almost. And it worked.
And some people, by the way, these days would be like, I could never do that to my child or my grandkid. But it paid off for you.
It worked. Yeah. I mean, I just took the feedback and I just stayed out there for hours on end until I became good at shooting. And I never even had a deep shot like growing up. Like I didn't shoot threes like that when I was a kid or anything. It was more just getting a bucket. And I always say, even when I was in high school growing up, it was never like I didn't have all the razzle dazzle that you see like on Instagram now. It was more, I'm going to get a bucket. I'm going to score 20 points, get 10 boards tonight, and there's nothing that anyone around here is going to do about it.
That was your mindset.
That was my mindset.
Let's talk though. So training, your grandfather uses reverse psychology, right? Which
Yeah.
That's savage. I like it though, but it paid
Yeah.
off. So here he is saying, it's not good. You got to keep working at it, right? So you keep working at it. When did you start noticing that, man, I really like this game and I'm getting better at it? Was it like middle school where you're like, I think I'm on to something here?
Yeah, it was middle school. So I always played 2 years older than me. And then like I basically became a part of the team that was 1 year older than me. So like I was just basically in their grade then. So like when I was in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, I played on the freshman team.
So like would that be varsity technically?
It wasn't varsity. So it was like they have a freshman team, a junior varsity, and varsity.
Okay.
But in Pennsylvania, you have to be in 9th grade to be able to play varsity. So like when I was still in middle school.
And we're talking Pittston,
Pittston
area, middle school, right? Represent.
Yeah, got a rep. So when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I played on the freshman team. So I kind of stayed with the same kind of people, because when I was in 7th grade, the good players also moved up to 9th grade. So we all kind of stuck together. So I was almost a part of their class. But yeah, so I did really well growing up, and I actually had a dead eye shot when I was in 8th grade playing on the 9th grade team. I shot it from like the volleyball lines, which is like a white line, kind of where the 4-point line is for the Globetrotters.
Okay.
And it was a game winner. Like the other team was up 2. And I got the ball like 2 feet in from half court, swish. But sadly, they didn't have like social media and smartphones back then, so I don't have it.
Yeah.
I'm so sad about it. But people like in my family always talk about it, how just that moment was so huge for me. And it was kind of like.
And how old were you again?
13.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of like a glimpse, of what's to come.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But growing up, did you have an idol in the WNBA or anyone you looked up to who played the game?
Michael Jordan was always my biggest idol, and I think it's, again, his savage, his attitude. Like, there's nobody like Mike.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about the journey then. You make this crazy shot when you're 13, right? When did, do you think your parents and people started noticing, I think she might have a future in this? Because, look, a lot of kids play sports, right?
Yeah.
I did sports and other
Right.
stuff. But my mom never looked at me and was like, man, you're going to be a track star in the Olympics. When did that hit for you?
High school. Like, when I became a freshman in high school, I started playing varsity. Mm-hmm. And I also played AAU since 8th, 9th grade. I didn't play since I was super young. That's the difference now. I think you see in youth athletes, they get to play AAU from, I think, maybe 10 on. Mm-hmm. And I didn't do that. They have opportunities to train with people like athletic performance centers and strength and conditioning as a kid. Mm-hmm. I was just out in the streets. So It was different. It was super different. So I think it's going to be really cool to see as well the development and the future for the youth, because they have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, let's talk about then after high school, right? As you continue to play, was anyone saying okay, what are your plans after high school? Are you going to go to college? Do you want to be a business major? Walk me through those discussions. What were you thinking? Take basketball off the table. What would you have done?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I really don't know. It was really ball. I was going to get a D1 scholarship, and I did. I went to Monmouth University, so I was super blessed to be able to get that opportunity. I knew that from junior year. So, the end of junior year, I knew already. My whole senior year, I was signed.
You had a scholarship?
Yeah.
Okay, and what did you major in at college?
Exercise science.
Okay, love it. Is that where you fell in love with just fitness in general and working out and taking care of yourself? Because obviously basketball was a passion, but if anybody follows your Instagram channels and your stuff, you're always doing some crazy, insane workouts, great workouts, but you could tell you're very into health. Yeah,
that's when it started, and I think it's just evolved a lot. You know, I know we're jumping around kind of, but once I became a pro, I think that's when it really kind of hit home, like the discipline stuff, the consistency, how to really level up. Because when I was still in college, I was still just getting buckets. Like, life was easy, life was good. But like when I got out of college, like, how am I going to become pro? How am I going to level up? And then it was like, how am I going to have a lifestyle? Like, how am I going to have a living out of this?
Yeah. So when you're in college, killing it on the basketball court, you're getting your education. Was the Harlem Globetrotters ever on your radar? Or were you thinking the WNBA? Like, where was your headspace with that?
Well, first I wanted to play overseas in Europe. That was always a big goal of mine.
Why Europe?
I always knew that you got paid more as a female athlete. Some countries pay more than the WNBA. So I think that kind of interested me. And also I think, you know, you can really be a star over there in certain countries. They really admire women's basketball. So I was like, let me go to play in that country.
And what are some of those countries that were like really, that you said, oh my God, if I went here?
Turkey, Hungary, Spain, Greece.
Did you ever play in any of those countries as a Globetrotter?
Spain. And I did play briefly in Greece as a professional.
Okay. We're going to come back to it because I want to ask the $1 million question.
Yeah.
How did you become a Harlem Globetrotter?
God, for sure. The way it happened really changed my perspective on my whole life. Like, to this day, like, anytime things aren't going my way, I think about how I became a Globetrotter. I'm like, I got to just trust the universe. So I actually tried out for the WNBA April 2021, and I didn't make it. So I was super devastated. And I didn't know what I was going to do from there because, like, I truly believed I was going to get it. Like, I felt like me and God were here with it, and it was going down, and then it did not go down. So I was so upset. And I remember even sitting with my mom in the hotel room, like, in San Antonio. The event was in San Antonio, and she was like, God just wants you to trust him. So, like, basically, I had to trust. I had no other choice, and I just figured out what I was going to do. I played on some like minor league teams for women, which are up and coming. So my first game with this team in Oklahoma, I was just playing, trying to get more film, trying to see what I'm going to do since I didn't make it. And I tore my labrum, which means like my shoulder completely torn, crazy, crowds in horror, arms hanging off.
Wow.
And I had to come back here to get the MRI, find out, you know, do I need surgery? What's going on? And I ended up tearing my labrum, but my ligaments weren't torn. So they gave me a choice if I wanted surgery. I chose no, decided to rehab my way back instead. I was like, I'm 26. I'm trying to make it now. Like, I don't got time to be out a year on surgery. Yeah. So I decided to really rehab my way back. And within a few weeks, I was almost back to normal. I went back to Texas, and my AAU coach from high school, who I hadn't really talked to like that, Isaiah Walker, he called me, and he's like, yo, man, I got you a trial for the Harlem Globetrotters.
And
like,
at that time, out
of nowhere.
But I mean, you've heard of them, but at the time, were you like, huh?
Yeah. I'm like, first of all, I'm not 100% right now. So I mean, I want to make it. This is a great opportunity. I want to be ready for it. And I felt I wasn't my best. And I told him, I'm like, can we reschedule? And he's like, no, man, they're flying you out. Be ready next week. I'm like, oh, man.
So they hadn't met you, but they're flying you out because what? They just knew your stats?
Yeah, they just knew who I was. And he had a connection. So that's how I got recognized. And he was like, oh, she's a perfect fit.
So take me through the tryouts. What happens? Like, because when I think of the Globetrotters, I think going out doing flips, jumping in buckets.
Right. Like, I had no idea.
Cartwheels, all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect at all. And I just knew, though, I asked him, like, what do I focus on? Because obviously, like you said, there's a lot. You can be practicing spinning the ball and dribbling and all different kinds of stuff. And he was like, nah, just do you. Just play basketball. And that's what I did. And it was like almost like the floodgates were open for me. Like, it was my day. Like, we were just doing some basic drills, some basic shooting drills, and I was just...
Tell me about the actual tryout day. For somebody who doesn't know basketball super well, are they like, here, I'm going to give you the ball, and I want you to make it from across the court? Like, tell me about some of the stuff. Like, were they like rating you on all this stuff?
They're grading you on everything.
Okay.
Everything. Like, from the way that you're responding to things going your way to reacting to things that aren't going your way. They're watching your body language and your attitude and how you can talk and just everything. Like, are you vocal when you're playing? They're watching every little detail. But we just did some basic drills for real. Like, it was nothing crazy. It was really just some basic drills. But we did have a part where we did shoot some 4-pointers, which I wasn't used to shooting at the time, which is what I was saying before is like a few feet in from half court, so a deep shot.
Mm-hmm. So you do that. How long until you got the call where they're like, you're on the team?
I knew, like, from the beginning because of just how it went down. So I knew that I got it. But it was a bit before they called me. And then it was a bit before I saw the paper. So I would say around at least a month.
Okay. And what do you think? So after you, when was the first time you signed on with them then? I mean, when did you initially sign on?
August 2021.
Okay. So you sign on. What happens after that?
I was blessed to be able to go on tour like pretty quickly. So I got thrown in the fire. and
what is
I had to
tour
learn.
like for the Globetrotters? Because is it like, I mean, you guys are out there. You're kind of like the crowd treats you like rock stars,
Yeah.
right? It's really cool. You get to interact with families and kids and all sorts of people. But describe like the tour. What is that like?
It's mentally tough. You got to be mentally strong. You got to have discipline. You got to be able to put on a show every single night, no matter how you're feeling, no matter if you had a crazy travel day. Like, you know, things happen
Nobody
when you travel.
cares 'cause they're there to
cares.
see a show.
Yep, exactly.
So how difficult was it? I mean, because one day you're like, I feel like you're in Japan. Then I look in the next day, I don't know how it even happened. She's in Hawaii. Like, it's to the point, I think from the perspective of social media, people are like, oh, look at all these great places she's visiting. But I'm sure not only you, but the whole team, like any traveling team like that, there's probably times where you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this tonight.
Yeah, but that's when the mental toughness kicks in for sure. It's cool being able to see so many cities in like so little
I remember
amount of time.
seeing you in Paris.
Yeah.
Like, not me. I mean, I saw you, like the pictures you took in Paris and
Yeah.
you made a show that night. I'm like, how cool is that?
Yeah, it's crazy. And like sometimes we'll go in like a store and be like, I don't know where I'm at. Like you have no idea where you're at, but it's a life like no other. It's an experience like no other, and I think it's totally worth it.
So your name is Mia Hopkins. So how did you get the name Mighty Mia as your Globetrotter name? Do you get to pick it?
Blessed. No, it was bestowed upon me. I'm just blessed.
Got it.
Yeah.
You remember my name, right? Do you remember my name?
One shot.
One shot.
I got you, dude.
So that was years ago. And if you remember, this is, thank goodness it was on live television because then we had proof of it. I did
Crazy.
a half-court shot, right? Was it a half-court shot, I believe? And I think, or what? I'm looking for
It doesn't
Eric.
matter.
Like, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
So I remember we looked at the kids. We were promoting the Harlem Globetrotters tour for when I used to work at WNBA on the morning show. And I threw the basketball behind me. And they're like, if he makes it, you're all going to the game. Well, guess what? They all went to the game. It was something I couldn't.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
Like,
so they call
to
me One
watch.
Shot. When I see the Globetrotters now, I'm like, it's me, One Shot. No, so coming back to your tour with them now, describe like what's the longevity with the Globetrotters? Like, how does that work for people? Do you go in like different seasons? Is there different tours going on at the same time? Like I remember with like certain events, like you think of like Ringling used to have 2 traveling shows.
Right.
Disney had 2 traveling shows. Do you guys have like 2 different teams around?
We have 3.
3.
Yeah, we have 3. And then there's 2 that typically will be in America, like the domestic tour. And then there's also the team that I'm on, which is more on the international side.
Okay.
Yeah, so they kind of hit different countries and tours that get set up.
Now, in a sport that's usually like male dominated,
Yeah.
right? Tell me about carving out your path as a female and being on a team that's like co-ed. I mean, was that harder for you? Do you feel like you had to prove yourself more than other people?
Yeah, but I grew up playing with the boys, so it's nothing that I'm not used to. And during COVID, I actually played in a men's league with Isaiah Walker. And, you know, I was roughed up a little bit, but I also got my own and I learned a lot. So, I mean, it's just nothing that's new to me. So I'm blessed to be able to be on a platform now on the big stage with the big guys who are dunking, and you got to learn how to throw an alley-oop and all that cool stuff.
And how tall are you, by the way, for people who haven't seen you play in a game?
5'10".
5'10".
Yeah.
And what's the average height of the players?
Of boys, girls, everybody. So the boys are typically a lot taller, especially like on the Globetrotters. Like 6'3", 6'4". The dunkers are bigger, but there's some guys that are my height as well, or maybe a little shorter.
So you keep coming back to the sort of like the mental game that you have to keep dialed in. What is that for you? The days you feel like you're traveling around, and look, I know a lot of people be like, oh, I'd love to play for the Globetrotters and be in Japan and this place, but it wears on people. So what is the headspace you have to get into to keep you going through that, and the workouts you're doing where you're getting up, when you're dragging from traveling, you're making sure the workouts are getting in, you're still training, and then you're doing a show that night.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But it's the discipline. And I think the discipline is really what keeps me balanced in all of it. The discipline and then the consistency to be able to do effective work over time. You see the results. And that is what keeps me sane, for sure.
Where do you get that from? Is it your grandfather, your mom, anybody you know that you're like, this is who it instilled in me?
I think it's intrinsic. I think it's all intrinsic motivation. And I think you can bring intrinsic motivation out of other people. Like, I think you could spark it in other people. And I think, maybe a combination of everything that I went through growing up. And I think I was kind of overlooked. And just going through ups and downs, I think that's where it comes from. Like, anytime I fall down, I want to get back up. Like, anytime I shoot a bad shot, I'm like, I got to make sure this doesn't happen again. Like, that stuff drives me.
Do you ever feel like you're too hard on yourself? Does anybody ever tell you that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think everyone has a different balance. Like Kobe's balance is different than the average person's balance. Like, everyone has a balance that makes them feel sane. So Kobe showed us that balance can be crazy sometimes, but I think I get a lot of that from him, learning from him and how he really dedicated his life to basketball.
Walk me through a day as a Globetrotter when you're on tour. What time are you waking up? So say you get in the night before. Walk me through it before showtime.
8 a.m. That's an average time, I would say.
That you wake up?
That is go time.
Oh, that it's go time for the day.
Go time. Like, literally have your bags packed and be on the bus 10 minutes early.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an average day, and then maybe some traveling. Where do you sneak in a workout, and how did you keep your nutrition dialed in when you're traveling to like a bazillion countries?
So usually I like getting my workouts done, like in the morning before go time. So this way I don't have to worry about it when we get to the next city. So then we're traveling for X amount of hours, usually like 3 to 6 hours, somewhere in between there, usually. And then we'll get to the next city. We'll have some time before the show. And then once we get to the gym, it's practice, magic pass, show, autographs, and sometimes travel. And then,
sometimes you're doing those early morning appearances, how you and I first met, where you're up at 3 a.m. getting picked up at 4 to go on maybe local television and promote a Globetrotter show. Yeah,
usually there are times like on tour where that can happen, but usually if you're doing PR, you usually just do PR. But there are times on tour where you will have to do things like that.
And when you did that, I remember, was your big debut. Right, with the Harlem Globetrotters in Pittston, Pennsylvania, when you performed at Mohegan Sun Arena near Wilkes-Barre, PA.
Yeah.
What was it like to walk out onto that court as a Pittston native, and this whole area was like, that's our girl?
A feeling like no other. I can't even explain it. Everything in my life came full circle because I've transferred in college, I bounced around overseas. I have a blotchy career to this point. So to have everything come full circle, it's a blessing. And there's no words that can describe that.
And where do things stand now with like what you're doing with the Globetrotters? Because I want to talk about some of the other cool stuff you're working on. Still traveling?
Always traveling. I love to travel, and I think that's just
like, how often do you get to be home?
It really depends, because I think everything is kind of depends on like when the tours are or if you're getting called out to PR and stuff like that. So I kind of come home when I can, and also if I'm doing any type of events or helping out with any type of events, which I do with like camps and stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because you as this local Globetrotter in northeastern Pennsylvania, you have a name people know. What's been the response from kids in the community in schools who are like, we got to bring her in for a workshop? Because I think you bring so much more to the table than let me show you how to do this 4-point shot.
Yeah.
You bring the mental game, the fitness component to it, sort of the whole package. Tell me what your message is when you're working with kids and what these camps are all about.
Number one, always believe in yourself, because when you believe in yourself, it's contagious. Other people start to believe in you too. And that's something I learned personally, firsthand. And I feel like it's my purpose and my message to these kids to believe in yourself, because that's the first step. Like, that's the mental side of it. You need that to be able to persevere with the physical side of it, because things are not always as perfect as you think they should be. And sometimes you get some feedback from the universe or life or your game, and it's not how you thought it should have went, but it's just feedback. And I think it's up to you to take that feedback and better yourself, evolve. And I teach these kids that. And whenever I go into a school or a camp or anything like that, my biggest message is to believe in yourself and persevere. You can do anything, chase your dreams, keep going.
Did some of that self-talk have to come up when you were trying out for the WNBA or the Globetrotters in general? Were there people who were like, Mia, like, you should just go?
I've had that my whole life.
So what was your response to people? Like, Mia, just maybe just go be a trainer. You have an exercise degree, right? Or like,
yes.
How did you combat that?
Success. Making it. Doing it. And I don't think I've made it. So let's make that clear. I don't think I've made it. I think there's
another mountain to climb.
There's always another height. Yeah. Another height to jump.
What did your grandfather say when you made the Globetrotters?
He was really proud. And I think he was really proud of me, of course, when I went D1 and played in college and played overseas. But this was bigger than that. And I'm really grateful that I got to see him be that proud of me.
So you know what's amazing? You launch these camps that you do.
Yeah.
And the easiest way, let's unpack, because the way people find your camps, because I know their kids could learn so much from you, not about the game, but the mental component as well, is through your Instagram that you keep up on, and you share some really crazy insights on there. What's your Instagram handle again?
@WeABallAKid.
How did you get WeABallAKid? Where did that name come from?
My friends in middle school. It's been my name since I've had an AIM instant messenger.
Oh, I had that.
Yeah.
Do you know what mine was? It was Fat Bastard 52. I swear to God, I was obsessed with the Austin Powers movie, but I took out the it was like Fat Bastard 52. Yeah, that was me on AIM. I had the BRB and all that stuff.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So that's what it came from?
That's what it came from. And
what did they call you? Like if they saw you in the hallway, what would they say?
WeABallAKid.
And you're like, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wea is just Mia with a W. So it's just
there
like
it
some
is.
slang.
All right, so people can check you out on Instagram at WeABallAKid.
Yes.
Balla, like BALLA.
Balla.
Yeah.
Kid.
And you do a lot of cool camps on there. But you also like launched a clothing line?
Yeah, I have a clothing line.
What's the deal behind that?
So the name of the clothing line is Star Mia, and the slogan is Unveil the Truth, which goes with my message to believe in yourself, because we all have infinite potential within us.
What do you want to do in the next couple of years? Like, what's on your radar? You're like, okay, did the Globetrotter thing, still doing it, but what's the next height?
Continue to grow and give back with the community, and be able to continue to travel and expand to different communities. Always come back to the hometown. Always.
And I think coming back to your roots in your hometown, what was the impact that northeastern Pennsylvania played on your life to set you up for success? What did you learn here? Was it the work values, the way to treat people?
All of the above. I love NEPA. I love it. The 570, especially Pittston, of course. There's just some kind of charm about it. And I think about it sometimes. I'm like, where I'm from is really cool, you know, because there's so many small towns and so many places in the world. The world is so big. It's crazy. And I'm from this little, cute, small town, and I'm just blessed to be here.
And you know what I said about this area, too? Because I wasn't born and raised here, but I feel like I'm a native after being here for, gosh, now 18, 19 years.
Yeah.
Is that nobody has your back in this area like this area. right?
Facts.
Like when you are, that's our people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I love that.
I love it too.
And I think that's probably one of the best things about this part of Pennsylvania.
love
Anything
it.
else you wanted to add that I didn't ask you that you wanted to dive into? I guess one question people might wonder when you're not balling and you are not at the gym, who are you in your downtime, your personal life? Are you dating anyone? Are you a foodie? Like,
Yeah. So I have a girlfriend. Her name is Abby. We like to travel together. And traveling is probably one of my favorite hobbies because I think it lets you get into a new culture. Like we were just in Tenerife, Spain. Yeah.
never even heard of it. That's amazing.
Neither did I.
All right.
But yeah, and so we got to stay there for 4 days. I had 4 off days there, and it was just so cool to see how life is so different. Like you're in a whole different part of the world, and that's a big hobby of mine, being able to travel. And I would say like going out in nature and connecting with the universe is a big hobby of mine, and it gives me clarity and peace, which also helps with balance. So I think that's a huge thing that I should even focus more on always.
And you as a basketball player, whether it was in high school and then college, right, and then the Globetrotters, you have played with people from all walks of life. How important is diversity and inclusion in the people you surround yourself with and the people you play with?
Well, anyone can do anything. So anyone that puts anyone down is just negative. So I think that people should keep believing in themselves that they can do anything and not let anyone put them down, because we all are super blessed to be here. And basketball is a great way to bring people together. Anybody can play. Like there's no judgment. And I actually told the kids, like while they're at camp, you know, I'm not mad at them if they mess up. Like nobody here is judging you. You know, like this is a judgment-free zone. We're all here to get better. So I think that's important, because you can't have people who are judging or like you're not that good, or you can't be good because of you're too small or anything like that. That's crap. I don't like that. And I think that people need to realize that and realize that they can do anything.
Do you think long-term, like way off in the future, do you want to try to have that legacy your grandfather had as a basketball coach?
I think it's more on the training camp side, because I like to travel. You know, I don't know if I can stay in one place for too long. I'm not sure. We'll see. Maybe.
Stay tuned. And the easiest way, so when you are back in Pennsylvania, to keep up on your camps, learn about the clothing line you have, your handle again on Instagram is at
We a Bala Kid.
We a Bala Kid.
I know it's going to pop up on the screen.
I love it. We a Bala Kid. Good stuff. Any final things you want to add? It's always great seeing you, by the way.
Great to see you.
I like me, and I feel like I don't talk to you for a while, but then I see you, and it's like I just saw you yesterday.
Exactly. This is from
She's-
the 570.
You're that kind of person. Like I maybe have not seen you in person for like a year, but we'll text about some stuff, or like I'll see something, and I'm just like, it's like chatting with an old friend.
Thank you,
So,
Ryan.
and you made this area so proud. When I
Thank
say
you.
this area, northeastern central Pennsylvania, to see somebody like you with the passion, who put the work in, the time in, who their grandfather used reverse psychology on, right? It worked, but you're proof, the hard work, the dedication, it paid off. And I really think you're just getting started.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Rock on.
Rock on.
Mia the Mighty Hopkins, thanks for being a part of today's episode. I appreciate
you.
it. And great to see you. I'll catch you next time
Bye.
on The Ryan Leckey Show. See ya.